Hi, I'm Jeanette Bonner, and this is School of Hollywood.
Welcome to Season 3 of School of Hollywood. We'd like to thank you for listening and following the Entertainment World School of Hollywood podcast. If you prefer videos of celebrities, they're available on entertainmentworld.us. Please take a moment and like the podcast and subscribe. And if you have any comments or questions, you can just send us a DM on Instagram at School of Hollywood. School is now in session. Hey, Jeanette, it's Steve, and I'd like to welcome you here today. You are in the buzz right now. Pretty Little Liars of the original sin. They wouldn't tell me anything about your storyline. So you're going to have to fill me in and your character.
Steve, the whole show is out for your viewing pleasure. You can watch the whole thing. There's no more secrets.
Well, for people who don't know the series, what ends?
Okay. Like my parents and my brother were like, hey, listen, I'm going to be completely real with you. I'm not going to watch Pretty Little Liars. Just like, they're like, tell me exactly what episode you're in, what time you come on. Love you, but that's not our show. So 100% understand if it's not your show. And I'm happy to spoil everything because there are no more spoilers. So tell me what you want to know.
Well, tell me about your character. And why HBO kept it a big secret.
Okay, so my character, her name is Rose Waters. I play the mother of Angela Waters, who is the first character to get murdered, commit suicide, sort of unsure, hazy, and literally top of episode 1. So the whole series is a setup of what happened to Angela Waters and why our present day Pretty Little Liars, our 5 sort of main characters, series regulars, how their lives are intertwined with this crazy story and this plot and why we should care. So one of the reasons that my character was sort of kept hush-hush for so long is because it's the whole series is set up sort of like a major murder mystery whodunit reveal. Like I said, sort of the Pretty Little Liars are putting together the pieces of the story of Angela Waters and why it matters to their own lives and how it intertwines with what's happening and what's with them right now, which is that they're being chased and haunted, I guess, by a crazed man in a mask with a knife. So one of the conjectures was that I was playing the crazed man in a mask with a knife. So it's like the mother of Angela Waters has come back to haunt the new Pretty Little Liars. So that was one of the theories, the fan theories that was going around. But this like reveal of this murder story and this whodunit and why it was like kept sort of under wraps until the whole story was out.
Well, you really couldn't use the sense memory or the Meisner or the Stanislavski of going back and being a killer. So how did you prep for it?
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't any of those, but it was the other magical instrument that we all have in our box, which was improv. So I just posted this story on Instagram. The audition that I got was one-line description of what's happening. It just says a woman who is having a psychotic break after or who is grieving from the death of her daughter, charges into a crowd with a knife, something like that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And that was it. That was just like the one-line description. It wasn't like, pretend you are going into the crowd with the knife or anything. It just said that, and then it was sort of like, go. So, without having any idea of what was expected of me or what to do for the audition, you're just sort of like, have at it, So the first thing was to tackle like how a woman experiencing a psychotic break would grieving from the death of her daughter would act. I reached out to my brother, who is a psychologist, and he said, after like talking through the show and the show's history and the story, and he was like, Jeanette, I don't think this is like NCIS. I don't think this is FBI. I think this is like prime melodrama. Actually, this reminds me of Mandalay. So if you're a Hitchcock fan, which I'm going to guess you are, Steve, it's like, you know that reference. Mm-hmm. And immediately I was like, oh my gosh, the servant in the house with the burning and the fire. And she's like, she's, it's so unrealistic. It's phenomenal. And I was like, yes, it is Manderley. So the minute he said that, I was like, wow, now it's fun. Now it's fun. Now I don't have to think about like, oh gosh, what would that grieving process would be? I was like, I'm just going to go in there. I grabbed the kitchen knife from my kitchen, went to my bedroom, and just did a lot of knife improvs. And I ended up booking the role. And I just got lucky in that the role turned into a speaking role, because it wasn't set up like that. I didn't audition with lines, but I ended up booking this job off of a knife improv in my bedroom.
That is awesome. So did you experience any of the real life ghost in the city?
No, no, unfortunately, no good haunting stories or anything like that. But it sure was fun to film. I'll say that.
So you have your own production company. You've produced quite a bit. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think so. This is going to date me, but I play a mother, so no, I'm not 25. So around the time that I know it seems wild to say, but around the time that YouTube came out, a lot of my friends, fellow actors, were talking about how this was this new platform where we could showcase our own work. And this new word came into being. It was called web series, which now sounds 100,000 years old. But this was a new avenue for us to say, like, instead of sitting around and waiting for someone to give us a job, why don't we write, create, and produce our own work for ourselves? It's mind-blowing. So that's what I did. I decided to create a pilot that would showcase me as the main character and the kind of comedy and branding that I wanted to do. And then was like, well, how do I get this made? So I kind of had to learn how to produce it. And I literally took a class. It was called, wait for it, Produce Your Own Work. And I learned how to make something, and it was very trial by fire. I learned sort of as I went. But after I made that initial pilot, I wrote a 2-season comedy web series called Ghostlight about community theater stagehands, combining my love of theater and filmmaking, and just like fell in love with the process and have never stopped from there. Sort of like when Ghostlight ended, I was like, what's next? And as I've been doing that and creating work for myself, other people have said, hey, I have a film, you know how to do this thing, I need help, can you produce my film? So I started meeting other filmmakers who wanted me to produce their work, and it's just kind of blossomed from there. So very proud to have work that is of my own creation, but also have produced other IPs that other people have written and hired me for.
You talk about branding yourself on it. What was the brand that you were trying to create, and how did you go about it?
At the beginning, I really I think this has changed. So even this is kind of saying this is going to be a kind of hackneyed conversation. But at the beginning, even like 10, 15 years ago, I just didn't feel like I was seeing the kind of comedic roles for women that I wanted to see, especially in New York. A lot of the comedy in New York City, or rather a lot of the comedy we were seeing was LA based, it was very sitcom-y. And I wanted a little more grounded, sarcastic, sort of what would come to be kind of like a 30 Rock, Parks and Rec style. And so I wanted to showcase myself in that vein as this kind of dry, sarcastic, comedic actress. Mm-hmm. Which I think I still am. And so that's where I started. So that was like the first pilot, and that was Ghostlight. Yeah, I guess I sort of wanted to start there. I don't know that like I've 100% just like stayed with comedy, but that was the initial impulse. But after doing 2 seasons of that and 4 years of that, I needed a little bit of a change. So the project after Ghostlight was a docuseries. I was like, no more narrative, no more scripted, no comedy. I need a break. So I did a docuseries. I was like, how can I just show up and work? Basically, was my thought. And I wanted to combine sort of my love of my community and the arts. So there's a lot of people in the theater and the filmmaking world. And I wanted to connect with them over my love of ice cream. Because I've been writing this ice cream blog about places to get near independent local ice cream in New York City. So it's called The Scoop. And I basically have a conversation and interview with a creative person, someone working in the theater or filmmaking world in New York City on the independent level, over ice cream. So
well, I love ice cream.
Sorry to overtalk you. What'd you say?
I said, I love ice cream.
Well, see, this is what's so fun about The Scoop is like, I made it in 2017 and it was right after, obviously like the election, and everyone felt like the media was so dark. Like every time you turn on the television, every time you turn on the radio, every time you listen to a podcast, it was like these like dark theorizings of like what the future was going to hold. And there was this very sad feeling in New York City that like freedoms were going to be taken away from us. And I know it seems extreme now on the other side of it, but that's what we were feeling back then. And I was like, how can I create some programming that's uplifting? So I wanted to talk about people's love of the art, and also like over this one food that I have never in my life met a single person that says they don't like ice cream. So I was like, how do I find this love of this one universal thing that everybody loves, that brings people joy and connects people, and use it to showcase the arts in a positive way?
So with the ice cream plot, were you able to get some influencer gifts?
I did it well, not 100%. My guests were not super high profile because they were from my own personal community. But I did. We always get like free ice cream or wherever we shot. And I will tell you, this one day we were trying to, it was a scheduling thing, but also a money thing, where I thought, let me try to shoot 2 episodes in one day. Mm-hmm. And so we did we did a shoot at one ice cream spot in the morning and then another in the afternoon. And at both places, I think I had like at least 3 scoops because I wanted to try different flavors. It was too much. It was a little ambitious. I felt completely ill. It's like, I don't know why. Whose decision was this? Where's the producer? Like, to have so much ice cream in one day was not a good idea. But we had me and my team. We all had a lot of delicious ice cream that summer.
That is awesome. And you also have a series called Single, or a project you're doing on something called Single.
Yeah. So again, similarly, after The Scoop, I was like, what genre haven't I tackled? I want to do something new. And I created a podcast, actually. And at the time, it was right when, I know it seems like corny and cliche now, because who doesn't have a podcast? But back in 2018, it was still kind of early stages. And I was really curious about it. And I didn't know anything about how to create a podcast. So once again, let me figure out how to do it. So create this podcast was sort of born, again, sort of coming from my own personal experiences in my life, and my own single experiences in New York City. But more importantly, I wanted to connect to other single women, but also single men as well, to talk about their experiences. I just didn't feel like there was a space in the world where people were honoring and talking about single women in a positive way, like sort of honoring their achievements and their independence and their happiness. It's always sort of like coming from a place of pity or shame, or how unfortunate that you haven't found someone yet. And I was like, I don't know, all the single women I know are like really great and really happy. So can I create some kind of content that showcases that in a positive way? So podcast is still going strong, having phenomenal conversations with single people in New York City and around the world, actually, and also talking to a lot of people in the dating relationship spheres and industries, just like talking about this as sort of a cultural phenomenon, if you will. So having a great time with that. Yeah.
So talking about the single and the whole dating thing, what has been the worst experience you've had on a date?
Again, I feel like you have to listen to the podcast, but this is a very elaborate story that I like won't get into the whole thing, because like my like, I've got the like #1 prize of the worst date story, and then I've got a couple runner-ups, and the worst one, again, it's a longer story and it's a great story, but this guy ended up feeding me through this kind of a kind of a like imaginary walkthrough. He's like, okay, I just want to like ask you, like, play this game with me. And I was like, okay. And he says, close your eyes, and you're walking through a field, and what do you see? Fast forward to the end of the day. And it was very weird, and I didn't understand what was going on. And I ended up telling some friends about it, and they said, oh, that's a classic pick-me-up. If you Google like strawberry field and con, that whole thing will come up. And it's a way to pick up women and to sort of get them to be interested. It was so gross and manipulative. Mm-hmm. And I was like really disgusted that this guy tried this thing on me. And moreover, that it was this very famous thing that guys do. And I'd never heard of it before. I'd never experienced it. And I don't want to say a victim, but I was an unfortunate recipient.
Yeah, I'd say I've never heard that one in LA, and I've heard just about every one of them.
Oh, it's really weird. Feel free to Google it. Like I said, we don't have to get into the whole thing. Yeah. It's called Strawberry Fields. You could pick like Google Strawberry Fields pickup or Strawberry Fields con or something like that. Okay. I think it's like more of a pickup artist thing, strategy, if you will. But either way, no one woman wants to find out that they're the recipient of some like very famous pickup strategy that also didn't work, by the way, because I was so weirded out by the whole thing.
So let's go back into the producing party.
Yes, we've taken a strong detour and told you didn't want to necessarily get into it. But
so on the independent films, how do you go about finding your funding for your projects?
Great question. I ask myself that every single day. A lot of people are self-financing because they want to use their first short film as a proof of concept for their future work. Crowdfunding. I've crowdfunded 3 projects of my own, and I've consulted and coached on countless others for other people if that's their first project. And then, we're sort of in this moment of time that where everyone's a little confused about the next steps. The pandemic has thrown classic content watching kind of on its head, in the way that movie theaters are closing, and even big studios don't really know what a projected ROI is going to be with box office, or if we're doing box office at all. So the traditional model of filmmaking is, I don't want to say dead, but it's definitely transitioning. And those of us that trickle down to the indie level are all trying to figure out, well, if this model no longer works, like what's the next model? So I don't have any answers for you, unfortunately. I have some wonderful filmmaker friends that are actually in the active part of doing research or trying to figure out like how we can finance films on the indie level, and how we can get either investors or how we can get loans to finance our work if we can't ultimately promise that we're going to have a box office run or we're going to have streaming distribution. So I don't have any answers for you, but like I said, and I've kind of been evident by this conversation, I'm always learning. I'm always in process of discovery and trying to grow as an artist myself. So, to be continued.
Well, no, this is great. And are there any charities that you're involved in New York that you want to talk about and support?
Yeah, actually, I am a teaching artist with a company called Only Make Believe, which was founded by Dina Hammerstein in the 1990s. Dana Hammerstein is the daughter-in-law of Oscar Hammerstein, and her husband was Jamie, which was Oscar's son. And when Jamie died, she created this foundation in his honor. It's named after a song from Carousel, which is an Oscar and Hammerstein musical, of course. Oscar and Hammerstein, Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. And it's built on the foundation that the belief that theater heals, that imaginative play is a key part of childhood, but more importantly, is a key part of the healing process. So intentionally, we go into schools and hospitals in the local New York City area. We also have a branch in Washington, D.C., to do interactive original theater for kids with long-term illnesses and disabilities. And I've been with the company since 2013. It's one of the most important pieces of my life, the ability to give back with the skill that I have training in and something that I love doing. I mean, we just go in from our parent point of view, we just go in and like use funny voices and put on these ridiculous wigs and play with the kids. But I will say that having worked with this company over this period of time, nearly 10 years, I have been able to see so many experiences with kids where this has aided them to open up or aided them to let down their walls or just allowed them a little piece of childhood in a really difficult time. And I really believe in it. It's very important to me. I love doing it. It's fun. But more importantly, I really believe in the foundational ideology behind it.
That is awesome. Where can people find you on social media?
Oh, goodness. So I have a personal acting account on Instagram at Jeanette E. Bonner. My production company account is, I should preface this by saying my production company is called Kelly's Pool Hall Productions. I am not Kelly. I do not own a pool hall. It's based off of an inside joke of my family where my grandmother used to answer the phone, Kelly's Pool Hall, which we later found out was actually used in Die Hard by Mel Gibson. So we don't know if she stole it from Mel Gibson or Mel Gibson stole it from my grandmother, but sidebar. It is at Kelly's Pool Hall. The podcast, of course, is at #SinglePod. And sort of all of those reference each other. I'm on Twitter, but I barely use it under the same handles that I just mentioned. And then same thing on Facebook. And I just joined Twitter. I can't even say it. I just joined TikTok for the podcast. I'm not a great user of the TikTok yet, but we are slowly learning. I'm a begrudged early user. So at #SinglePod on TikTok too.
And the podcast, they can hear it where?
Almost every single platform that anyone listens to podcasts. So the easiest thing I can recommend, if you type in hashtag, like the actual symbol, and write #single, it will come up as a search term. So you got to spell that out old school way. So #single, and it should pop up. But obviously Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts are sort of like the big three. And then everything from like Amazon is doing podcasts, Pandora's doing podcasts. I think there's more. I can't even remember myself. Yeah, but they're all hyperlinked at the Instagram account if that's like too much information.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being here today. You're a wonderful guest, and congrats on the series.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you go watch it.
I will.
Report back. I hope you get sucked in. You weren't expecting to.
Thank you for listening to the latest School of Hollywood podcast. We'd like to ask you a small favor. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like it. And if you really liked it, please share it on your social media. If you have any questions about acting, music, producing, and directing, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at School of Hollywood. School of Hollywood is now part of entertainmentworld.us. Until next time, school is out.